my opinion of the current climate and how Black people are affected today. Um, well, one, I want to just throw out there because it's a difficult question. It's an emotional question, and I want to make sure that I approach this question in a sensitive manner. But I do want to give a little background on my research in psychology, and my research in psychology is on stress and cognition in Black men specifically, and it's not to discredit women. We also have a study about stress and cognition in Black women. There's just a Black woman, female psychologist that's going to be heading that. But my particular passion is in Black men because we tend to hide behind our bravado. We tend to not seek medical attention or mental health more frequently than our female counterparts. And so that's kind of where my research is kind of landing. And within my research, within looking at stress and cognition in Black men, I'm also talking about the current climate of racism in Black men. And I talk about the effects of racism in the current climate of social justice. And I can't get a lot into I can't go into great detail about the research because it's still pretty active. But what I can tell you is that we highlight a couple of things. A lot of studies that we look at talk about perceived racism. And so when you think about perceived racism, perceived is like the thought of racism. But what I want to highlight is like the actual danger of racism. And that's what we're seeing in our current climate. With so many of our Black men and women being gunned down by people who are supposed to protect and serve us. And so when I think about the current climate, I'm going to address that. I'm going to address that piece of, our communities being taken advantage of or being mistreated. And so I think with the African American experience, I think we have to look at three traumas, and I kind of highlighted those earlier on in the presentation, but we have to look at three traumatic stressors, which is the transferred, experienced, and the witnessed. And so I kind of highlight those because I think they each play a great deal in like the current climate and how each of us as Black people respond to the current climate. And again, I talked about the transferred, which is generation to generation, the actual experience where you're actually threatened or you're actually physically violated. And then I'll talk about the witnessed. And so what we're looking at is like the witnessed piece, because we're witnessing so much death of our own and what that looks like for your father or for your brother or for your mother or for your sister. And how scary that thought could be, that you could walk outside your house and never come back just because of the color of their skin. And it's been a lifelong tradition for many of us due to the historical discrimination that we've experienced within this country. And so the current climate of today is highlighting those things because we have a stronger lens through social media, through camera phones, where we're able to see a lot of the where the mistrust stems from. And so when you have someone that's outside of our group, and what I mean by that is a Caucasian or an Asian or someone who may not understand, the plight of what Black people go through because they may feel like slavery was, 50 something years ago. Yeah. Now you're able to see it. And even if we saw in the last administration, people are able to see it and they still won't receive it. You can see the death of a George Floyd and still say, well, he shouldn't have been resistant, or he should have just laid there, or it's a lot of different things that I've witnessed and I've experienced, and a lot of questions and debates and over this topic. And so I think that, again, we can't depend on others to take care of us. I think that, this current climate of racism and injustice and social injustice is showing us that, we have a light shining on us and the whole world is seeing the injustices that we go through. and they're sympathetic and empathic about it. And a lot of them are out there on the front lines marching with us. And when I say a lot of them, I mean like our white counterparts and Latino counterparts and Asian counterparts and all those different things. But at the same time, when everybody go home and go to sleep, it's still us as a Black community that's responsible for making sure we take care of ourselves. And that's through advocacy. That's through, getting into a position where we're able to change laws. We're able to lobby against certain things, getting more informed about those things as far as what's happening in our communities when it comes to, any type of politics. I don't care if it's an alderman position, knowing what your alderman is doing, why he's doing it. I think more than ever, this current climate is showing us that we as a community, as a culture, need to become more knowledgeable when it comes to politics in general. And that way we can start getting in there and putting our foots down and our roots down to make change. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that by the boatloads. I mean, we're seeing that with many of our Black women, many of our transgender population. We're seeing that in waves of diverse groups that are getting into politics because, we know like we have to start changing laws to make things better. And it may not be better for us. It may not, and I'm okay with that. Martin was okay with that. Malcolm X was okay with that. But making things better for the next generation that's coming up behind us, or that generation, or the following generation coming up behind them, making things better for them, I think should be the ultimate legacy that we all want to leave.